everyone, and welcome to the latest installment of Our Sinclair. It's two Americans look at the quirky European do-it-all, the ZX Spectrum. I'm Amigo Aaron, joined by a Euro aficionado, the Brent. It's a word I just made up. How are you doing today, the Brent?
You know, they used to call me the European do-it-all.
They did?
Yeah.
And what happened?
I beat the guy's butt.
I will say this. If you were the European do-it-all, that says very little for Europe. Because having seen your American efforts, they are low energy, my friend. Here we are, as we sit now, the Brent, in this small metal building, as a 93-degree Fahrenheit sun clamps down on top of us, heating us up good. And it's July 4th just passed here in America. That's sort of the apex of summer.
Well, to be fair, July 4th just passed everywhere.
Well, I mean the holiday. And when you celebrate a holiday like July 4th, you think of a few things. Here in America, you think you got patriotism, right? Cookouts, right? Get a little bit of time off work, right? Maybe fireworks. But there's one thing that trumps them all, ladies and gentlemen, and that is vampires. Vampires are what make summer great. And we knew that the people would crave vampires. And so this time around on Our Sinclair, the Clive's Club has spoken. We'll be looking at Nosferatu the Vampyre, spelled cool guy style. Before we get into it, though, I sort of talk vampires. I'm a big vampire guy. I love them. Do you remember when you first heard about vampires and what was the stuff that, because I mean, every kid loves them, gets into them. What got you into vampires?
Probably Castlevania.
Really?
Yeah.
Before any books or TV shows or anything?
Yeah, because I mean, I was playing Castlevania when I was like 7. So, it's not like Mom and Dad were going to set me down in front of a bunch of horror films.
Right, but I mean, vampires are part of everyday life, even for kids. Who could forget the Count? 3, You know that guy? He was a vampire on Sesame Street.
Or the guy on the cereal box.
Or Count, or Duckula. He's another one. None of these guys, or any of the many times that Bugs Bunny, or any of these other guys would run into vampires, none of that stuff did it for you?
I mean, I wouldn't understand the reference. I would just think they were dressed up in a cape. I wouldn't know the intricacies of it.
That's crazy to me. So, let's move past Castlevania. We'll get to that in a minute. I'm talking vampires in media.
Right.
When you think
because why in the world would we talk about video games on this show?
We're working our way around. You know, it's an entertainment orb. Okay.
Okay.
So when you think vampires, like what in your mind springs forward out of pop culture and entertainment?
Vampire the Masquerade. The
role-playing game. Man, yeah. You're a dork. But I mean, it's true.
You asked.
That's not what I thought you'd say. If I may answer the question for you.
Thank you.
You know,
if you wanted to lead the conversation, you probably should have told me where we were going.
I guess there's a generation gap there. Okay.
Let me guess. You want to talk about a silent movie?
Well, no. I'll get to that because no one starts off with that. But when I was a little kid, what did we see that was on TV all the time aside from vampires appearing routinely in all sorts of shows?
Sure.
We had reruns of Dark Shadows on. We used to watch that. Never heard of that one, huh?
Nope.
Okay. I remember when I was studying in high school at the Putnam County Library, there's a book there that I saw many times until I finally checked it out. Interview with a Vampire, the Anne Rice book, which was a real
I'm aware of the movie. I know it was a book. I know.
You're killing me here.
I've never read the book.
Right? Here, okay, but anyway, the book series was great. Anne Rice. She put vampires in a whole new light for me that I never thought of.
So did Twilight.
No, this is way before that. Then you got something like The Lost Boys.
Yeah.
Right? Did y'all ever see that one?
Yeah, I saw the movie, yeah.
You saw the movie? What'd you think of that one?
I mean, I was young, so I'm sure it was fine.
What about Near Dark? Have you ever seen that? No. Never seen that one, huh? Lance Henriksen? No, Bill Paxton? What vampire movies do you like, Brent?
I mean, Dracula Dead and Loving It was okay.
That sucked.
Yeah, actually, it was really bad.
I'm gonna stake you here in a minute.
Can
you not play ball here with vampires? It's the most simple, basic topic. You've never seen a vampire film?
A good one? Ooh.
What about Shadow of the Vampire? Well, they actually they show what they imagined happening. They sort of like behind the scenes of the original Nosferatu filming, where they proposed that the fellow who played Nosferatu, Max Schreck, was actually a vampire. And in the movie, William Dafoe plays a vampire. And when they get done with certain cast members, the director allows him to kill them and eat them.
I mean, that seems fair.
Never saw that one, huh?
No.
Okay, fine. Let's talk about video games, the Brent. you nerd.
Why, I'm the nerd?
Let's talk about how Castlevania gets all this praise.
All right.
It's not that great, really.
All right.
It's okay.
You're fine to think that.
It's okay.
You're wrong, but you're fine to think that.
Do you think it's great?
It's really good, yeah.
What is the appeal of that game?
I mean, it's a good, difficult platformer that has really improved the formula over time. Now, it had a couple lowlights. Some people love Castlevania 64. I am not among that crew.
What about Castlevania on the Amiga, the original? It was god-awful.
Yeah. Well, no, that's the one based off of the arcade game, I believe.
It stunk.
Yeah, well, the arcade game was okay at best.
What other vampire games aside from that do you play?
Vampire the Masquerade.
Yeah. Now, you played the role-playing game. Let's get back to that for a minute.
Okay.
Before we get to the video game.
Okay.
Now, I can't recall if you played with us when we played Vampire.
I've played with Pat. I mean, I've played a few games involving you.
If you've never heard of Vampire the Masquerade, which was a game produced by an outfit called White Wolf in the 90s, we all got into it heavily.
Mm-hmm.
And we had several year-long campaign that my buddy Jerry ran us here in Hurricane. It was a big deal. All my buddies played in this game. Everybody fell in love with this vampire game. And so you guys also played it. And it eventually spawned a couple video games. They were very industrious games. They had a wide scope of what they wanted to do. I think they sort of fell through the cracks on them.
Well, the remake is either coming out soon or maybe it's already came out. I cannot recall of the original game. But the original game was just far too ambitious for the company that was handling it in the time frame that they had. Uh-huh. However, after the fan patches, which are a mandatory, you've got if you're going to play the game, you've got to get the patches for it. It became a entertaining and a worthwhile experience. I didn't play all the way through the game, but I played like 80% of it.
Yeah.
But my thing was I always wanted to start over and see what all the other vampires could do. Because the character sheets are ripped straight from the RPG. And the power implementations were vast. I mean, they did a lot of things for a game that was that old.
Yeah.
Fun times.
Just to throw a few more things out there, and I saw them mentioned in the chat as well. There's From Dusk Till Dawn, a vampire movie that you're getting half a vampire movie, half of like a cops and robbers film. It was a strange, odd film. I half liked it. I liked the first half. You've also got people mention The Little Vampire, which is something I'm not familiar with, but I've heard of it. Vampires have sort of the love of vampires has permeated over the years. You mentioned Twilight, that whole series, which is a low point, frankly. But, I mean, some people love it, you know. So whatever toots your horn. But we can't forget the old games that came out that had vampires. And we played a couple in this show. There's also, I think it's a game called Dracula for the television. I remember liking that an awful lot. It had cool box art. We played, I think we played a Dragon 32 game one here. That was a Dracula-based game. I know we played more than just those two. Oh, of course. We played Happy Coding, the Midnight Brews Dracula game, which was great. I had a lot of fun with that one. Go ahead.
You know my problem with a lot of Dracula-based games?
What?
You never get to be Dracula. You're always trying to kill Dracula. I think it'd be fun to have a game where you play as Dracula.
You get to play as Dracula in some of the games.
Can you name two?
Yes.
Please do. I would like to check them out.
The Coco game, you play as Dracula. I can't remember the name of it.
Okay.
Or it might be a dragon game.
Undisclosed Coco game.
Oh, I've got one.
All right.
And this is a throwback. So do you remember the game? Remember the show Fright Night, the movie Fright Night? Great movie. Fright Night. It's another one. And Fright Night 2 even better. The Amiga had the only port, I think, maybe the ST had it, of Fright Night the game. Where, yes, you, in fact, play the vampire. And you go around biting all the good guys in the cast.
Here's the problem.
There you go.
Here's the problem. And someone in chat mentioned Darkstalkers, which that's true. But my problem with all these selections is when the things you're mentioning, you don't play as Dracula. You play as a vampire. And at least with Darkstalkers, you do get to play as Dracula, but you don't get to play as Dracula in his setting.
Yeah, Texas Moves just took you to school. Castlevania, Lord of Shadow 2, you get to play as Dracula. There you go. Thank you, Tex. You took it down a peg.
I want to play as Dracula, where the gameplay is sitting on your throne, amassing wealth.
Yeah.
And then
wealth?
Yeah.
What would a vampire care about amassing wealth?
Oh, that's things.
You can't suck it.
I'm not talking wealth as in like hundreds of money. I'm talking about artifacts and relics.
Yeah.
And occasionally you direct your minions to go out, and when they fail, you either take them to school or you go and you do it yourself. I think that'd be fun.
It sounds.
I think it'd be fun.
Well, I will say, this game this week will not change your mind because you are also not playing as the vampire.
Nope.
Let's get into it, Brent. It's Nosferatu the Vampire spelled cool guy style. Let's talk about it. So, to understand, now listen, this is my kind of game, everybody, because I get to talk about films for 10 minutes. Enjoy. I have to. You got to. So,
I'll at least put the gameplay footage up so they have something to look at.
Listen to me. Don't rain on my parade here. So, everyone's heard of Nosferatu, the classic silent film that was produced in 1921. Now, get this. I'm going to thank Hardcore Gaming for this little tip. I've never read this before. So, the original Nosferatu produced in 1921 and was so super creepy. We mentioned Max Schreck, who played the Nosferatu vampire in that, Count Orlok. So, if you've never seen this, man, it is creepy. And his performance is double creepy. Plus the way the film and stuff works makes it makes it even more creepy.
Yeah.
So, here's something I didn't know, though. Nosferatu was the first film adaptation of Bram Stoker's novel Dracula, but they didn't get the rights to license the book. Even in 21, the pinheads are still on you. So they sort of they changed a lot of the plot. They moved it to Germany. They changed Dracula's name. They changed the lady's name. They changed Professor Helsing's name, right? But guess what? Bram Stoker's widow was like, we're not buying that. So she took them to court for copyright infringement, and they won. And so the court ordered that did you hear this story before?
Uh-uh.
Get this. The court ordered that they burn the original negatives and every existing copy of the film. Now that is judgment. Think about that for a minute.
That's pretty hardcore.
So luckily, thanks to some, much like myself, some enterprising bootleggers who made their illegal copies of the film, it was not lost forever, but it was supposed to be lost forever. Okay, so which I thought was crazy. So this game, which is called Nosferatu the Vampyre spelled cool guy style, is not based on that film.
Right.
Okay. So in 1976, a pretty famous director named Werner Herzog did a remake of the film, okay, with Klaus Kinski as the Count, and it was called Nosferatu Phantom der Night, which means Phantom of the Night, okay, because it sort of like was a hybrid from, and I actually have seen this a while back, but they sort of took parts of stuff from Dracula and parts of stuff from the film, and they sort of made it into one big sloggy film, okay? This was supposed to be sort of I don't want to say it's a shot-for-shot remake, but he was going for a certain amount of similarity to the first one to get this over. So, you're thinking to yourself, okay, Aaron, you blabbing idiot, what do these two films have to do with Nosferatu game? Believe it or not, this game was a licensed game from the 1979 Werner Herzog remake. They paid for the license, and if you look at this game, it's got the studio information all over the tape and everything, so you know that this belongs to Warner Bros., whoever it was, Fox. So this is a actual licensed game from a license that was trotted out several years earlier. So all that said, let's get into the game proper.
Oh, God. Please, don't you have something else you can talk about first?
No. Nosferatu the Vampyre, also known as the Vampire Nosferatu. In both instances, the vampire is spelled cool guy style with a Y. Published in '86. This was originally published by Piranha. They'll bite you. Ironically, Piranha's and Dracula's all bite. Piranha had a couple games we've tried, including Trapdoor, Lost in Trapdoor, Yogi Bear, Gunboat, a game called simply Big Sleaze, which is, I would like that to be my new nickname. Rogue
Fitting.
Trooper, and then this wasn't their first foray into this genre. They also made a game that we've got to try someday, The Astonishing Adventures of Mr. Weems and the She-Vampires. That sounds pretty good. Although that sounds strangely familiar. The person that did this on the ZX was named Graham Stafford. He's got a pretty he's had a pretty good career over the years. If we look at what he's done, amongst the things he did, he programmed a ton of games on the old 8-bits. He did Dungeon Master, Cosmic Gorilla. That sounds pretty good. Cat Trap, Planet of the Catmen. He did this on. He did these. He would do these on like all the big systems, the C64, the Amstrad, and the Spectrum at times. So he would actually go through and do all three sometimes. A lot of these he's credited 3 times. He did James Bond in 007 The Living Daylights. He did that on 4 machines, which you can believe it. But get this, he went on to do some other stuff. He produced Lemmings 2, Hired Guns on the Amiga. He was a project manager or producer of that. He produced Microcosm, your favorite game. So this guy was responsible for your all-time favorite game, Brent.
Wow.
Yeah, so he had a pretty decent career over the years.
I would say his career were full of ups and downs.
Listen, I don't agree with that. Of course, this was for the 48K. You could also play this in the 128, and if you played it on the 128, it would preload the various levels. This supported the usual amount of various joystick. They did a good job, giving all kinds of options for keys, joysticks, the whole 9 yards. This comes up with a real attractive load screen before the game came. I mean, I thought it was pretty good.
It's not bad.
I mean, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to give the situation here. So, with all that said, Brent, what were your first impressions when the Nosferatu homed into view? Another isometric special.
Well, at this point, I still had belief that maybe you get to play as the vampire.
No.
Those were quickly crushed.
Yeah.
Instead, of course, you play it as Little Man Joe, or I mean, he has a name, but let's be honest,
Man
it's
Joe
not
is
important.
Not yet. You're Jonathan Harker.
I actually went to the story screen right off the bat, and I was like, okay, so the first thing you have to do is get the deed for the house and escape, and then the second thing you have to do is when you play as the chick, lure Dracula or Nosferatu to the bedroom.
Yeah, don't get us sued.
And I was like, I was like, okay. And then I fired it up, and all hopes of this game being good were destroyed.
Well, you overly simplified what allow me if I could give a little bit of the background.
Now this was the information that was found in game. The information on the back of the jacket was more expanded.
Well, in the inside of the jacket, they give you the full. I'm not going to read all of it, but I'll give you a hint. So, it says here, you are Jonathan Harker, an innocent employee of the estate agent Rinsfield. We know Rinsfield was by the way, this is from Dracula, not from Nosferatu. Yeah. So you can see, you can already start to be confused. And by the way, you're in Dracula's castle for Nosferatu.
Makes sense.
All right, so right out of the gate, you're just scratching your head. And so you have been sent to his castle to complete a sale, but the only problem is there's a vampire in the castle, okay? Now you must act fast to protect yourself and the inhabitants from his power. So let me break down the stated goals. I'm not going to read the flavor text for it. Number one, you mentioned it. You need to start off in the castle. You need to search around the castle to try to find these papers. Now, I'm going to be upfront about my abilities here before you go any further than that.
Okay.
When I played this just cold, I furrowed my brow in a vain attempt to understand as I wandered around, picking up random crap and dropping other crap. That's effectively what I did until I found some stuff that you could keep. And I never got anywhere except lost or violently accosted by bugs and bats. That's usually what did me in.
Yep.
So I went to our old buddy, the playthrough, to see what I was doing wrong. And when I went with the playthrough and literally almost went exactly with the playthrough guy, I still couldn't get off the first level, okay? This long, long level. However, the object of the game is to go through, find the deed, find the keys to get out the door. That's your only goal. I read that you could get past the first level without even finding the deed. As long as you find the keys and just left, it didn't matter. Because that's what you're there for, find the deed. The second act of this game is a lot more bizarre. Because out in the city where you've escaped to, this is the town of Wismar, everyone's being turned into a vampire by Nosferatu.
Yeah.
Your job is to go around and in this instance, you play as 3 different characters, okay? Your job is to basically stake as many of the townspeople as you can. And you also have to use Lucy, again, from the novel, not the movie, to lure the Nosferatu through this level and into the house and into Lucy's room. Now, this is incredibly difficult. I was watching this, and Nosferatu will not go through any areas where there are other vampires, so you have to stake him, and then you have to lure him. And also, he's like, you know how you have those idiot companions in games? Yeah. They get stuck on like poles, and doors.
It's a Nosferatu escort mission.
Nosferatu is a moron. He can't navigate in man's world. He's too cool. And so moving him through the level looked excruciating. But let's get back to the main level at hand. What did you think of the overall graphics, the aesthetic, and the control, that sort of thing?
Well, let's go over the good parts of this game.
All right, go ahead.
It has a day-night cycle, and it actually reflects that as you're playing by changing the hue of the room. The game basically plays in black and white.
A monochrome would be a better way to put it.
Well,
it's monochrome. One color.
Yeah.
But black and white says that there's no color.
Well,
get it right.
It basically plays in black and white, where the white color is replaced with the time of day look in the room. So if the sun is high in the sky, the room will be yellow.
Plus a little window tells you when the sun's out.
And it goes more towards twilight. It starts changing the colors. And then there are parts of the house that are pitch black, like that have no windows and no lighting. So those are the 2 color or lack thereof of the game. But the graphics themselves look fine. You look like a dude. A bat looks like a bat. A chair looks like a chair. All that kind of stuff looks fine. My problem with the graphics is there's too little graphics. The desk is repeated ad nauseum. Same with plumbing fixtures, beds, and there's only about a handful, maybe 10 or so different objects that you see throughout the
there are some epic
mansion.
Bathrooms in this place, though.
Well,
they're massive, like bigger than my whole house.
That's the other problem, is the rooms don't make any sense. It will show you a square portion of a room, of course, in an isometric view, and then the room might stretch for 4 or 5 screens, in one direction, which might make a bedroom the same size as like the Great Dining Hall or the Great Hallway. It's very off-putting. I thought that was very off-putting. But ultimately, the things that you find around the houses, the wardrobes, the desks, the tables, that kind of crap, you can push your body into them, hit the button, and it will search it.
I like how you put that. You push your body into the searching. One thing I want to ask you about, of course, this is a flip screen game.
Yeah.
And so, and unlike a lot of flip screen games you'll play, like the border of the screen, there's a drawn border, but that does not necessarily mean that's where the room is.
It means nothing.
Yeah, so that can be something that will throw you off early on. It's when you hit those borders, but like, you can just keep going. And in some places you think you can go, but you can't, you know?
Yeah, the game for the lower sections, the bottom left and the bottom right of your isometric view, there is no clear indicator on where you can and cannot go. And what's really bad is you might be pushing against a table or something that doesn't appear on your screen, but is blocking your path, meaning that if you go to the top or the bottom of this isometric view, you'll actually walk past the table and can still continue on. It was very annoying.
Now, I will say, and I'm going to pair something you said, I think as usual with the Specky, the graphic, the fine detail is quite nice.
Yeah.
And the rooms look like rooms. They do a good job. Even stuff like, for example, there's a point where you get to where you recover the key. It's hanging on a peg. I mean, it's like 3 pixels, but there is a difference between with and without the key. Now, would you ever find that without help? No. Did you ever find the keys on your own?
No.
Something else that they've added in was not only are there secret paths, but things you can search that you wouldn't expect to find stuff, and you will. Like, for example, you walk up to like one of the first fireplaces you come across, and there's boots in there. Bug smashing boots you can get.
Yeah.
You'll find stuff like candles or lamps and guns and all sorts of stuff. You don't always, and you really can. You can only carry, when you pick most things up, you won't be able to carry anything else, but some stuff will go into your inventory.
Well, this is the way it works.
Yeah.
You get to hold one accessory, and by accessory, I mean crucifixes, candles, lamps, keys, that sort of thing. That's where that's the inventory slot for the deed and for the keys. And then your other thing is a weapon slot. And when I say weapon, I don't always mean like offensive weapon. The boots go in that slot. The boots don't actually kill things. They just make it so the spiders can't hurt you. You can get a sword. You can get a
spiders
gun.
Can still hurt you if they linger on you. And even with the
boots,
but
you got to really be an idiot.
Well,
the problem, there's a lot of problems.
Yeah.
I'm going to get into them. This game is one button, which is fine.
That's all they had.
But it makes gameplay kind of annoying. First of all, you will likely, if you play this, you will never actually see Nosferatu. I never saw him. I'm guessing you didn't either.
You have to get to the second level, and then you see him.
Did you get to the second level?
No, not on my own.
It's because no human without support is going to make it to the second level.
No, I mean this is the first level. If once you understand how it works, it's doable. I'll explain why. I learned too late the secret of this game. The secret of the game is eating.
No.
Yes, because hold on a second. Before you keep going. There are critters in this game that are unfair. Okay,
yes.
And the game knows.
Yeah.
The bats in this are ridiculous.
Yeah.
The spiders are annoying. The bats are ridiculous. Okay, it's the bats. But you can when you get damaged, a little tombstone starts building, and when it gets finished building, you're dead. That's your tombstone.
Right.
If you eat, the tombstone will go away. Okay, and you can completely heal yourself. They've given you a ton of food in this game.
Yeah.
But you have to use it strategically. You have to go and make sure you've got full health. Go and get, say, the key or the deed, and then you'll be mauled. And there's no way to avoid it. Then you go back and eat. You fill back up. Then you go back and get the other item you need. Then you fill back up for the final push into the basement. And then once you do that, there is no being clever or hand-eye coordination, that stuff. They put this there for a reason. You're going to get cream.
Right. But it's not like you just go and get the deed or get the key. It's all hidden. To use the lamp or the candles, you have to first find the matches.
Yep.
And guess what? You ain't ever finding the matches.
Where
on
were
your
the
own.
matches?
Exactly. I had a map pulled up with the exact location, and I still couldn't find the matches.
Yeah.
So the game is brutally, ridiculously difficult in the way that it hides things. And it's to falsify the length of the game. Because the game, I got to the point where the only reason why I would die is I just stopped caring. The bats, yes, they're a problem, but once you get a sword, and the sword's easy to obtain, because you can get a sword and a huge layout of food in the same room. You just go there and you get a sword immediately.
A table room?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's enough food that you could refill like 4 or 5 times. You walk so slow, you will not have the will to go back and get more food. To attack in this game, you press the button. Because you press the button to do everything. The problem is pressing the button also drops your weapon. So you will drop your weapon, pick up your weapon, and when you pick up your weapon, you hold the button, and then you can the bats, if they run into you, will die, or you can move around and run into the bats. The problem is the sword has durability. So you will kill, I think you get to kill like 20 bats before your sword will break, and the game will give you no warning. You will just be killing bats, and then the bats will be killing you. And the bats and the spiders and the rats all respawn. They are a constant nuisance. There are also dogs in the game. You can kill the dogs. The dogs will stay dead, which is odd, but whatever.
They look pretty good, by the way, I thought.
Yeah. The whole thing, the whole package is, do you want to walk around this house, this ludicrously proportioned house, for hours and hours and hours to run across the items that you need to continue on to the game? Because you could run around the house, about 1/3 of the house, with no items whatsoever and look around. And then you have to find the matches, and you have to find a candle or a lamp. If that is your type of game, if you want to run around and search for that kind of crap, be my guest. I normally am okay with these type of games, but you move so slow and there's so much jank that I got really frustrated with this game really quick. It has really cool features. For an example, you can push the chairs, and the chair will, if you press up against the chair will actually slide along, and if you hit another chair, you'll keep sliding it. And the chairs stay moved. I thought that was really cool. But there are other aspects to this game. One that is a major problem, worse than everything else combined, that I'll get to in a second. But if looking around the house sounds like fun, where you have very little to no actual threat, this is the game for you. Now, Aaron, I have to ask you, did you play this game with sound?
Well, when you said there was one aspect of the game that trumped everything else, there was only one thing that could be worse than the inventory system in this game, and it's the sound. Because I'm convinced that this is the noise a vampire makes to thwart the living, and it works. This is a game in a world of bad sound. This one is unrelenting and undeniably the worst I think I've ever heard. Was the sound of Nosferatu. It is god-awful noise.
It is unbelievable to me that this was setting on some publisher's desk, and they fired it up, because the music is constant unless you physically turn it off. And they heard this and said, "Yeah, that sounds great. Ship it."
Yeah. Well, it's a bullet point on the back of the box. Has sound.
It is the most It is like when your modem is connecting to the internet.
Yes.
But
it's like a bassier version.
But yeah, drop the pitch by about 4 keys, and then turn the volume up to 11.
Yeah.
Now, I will say something very proud here.
Okay.
When I first played this, I turned the sound off.
Yeah.
Okay?
Oh, yeah.
But when I played for real, because I came back to the game after I looked up the story and I was trying to look for hints, and after my first experience, when I played it for real, I kept the sound on because I wanted to get the full experience. I wanted to know how this game made me feel.
How did it make you feel?
It made me feel angry.
So pretty much the same as everything else.
I played this for over an hour with that sound on.
Yeah.
And you would think that at some point it would drown out. It would just kind of become null noise. No.
It changes just enough.
It is so mind-numbingly bad that it might be the worst music I've heard in any video game ever.
It is unsettling. Like, if you walked into Dracula's castle and that's playing over the loudspeakers, how could you find the deed? You know what I'm saying? I'd burn that castle to the ground for the good of the nation.
Yeah. The plot in this is so stupid. I don't know if it somehow ties to the movie.
It does. It ties to the movie for 79.
But having to find the deed, like, in my mind, thinking that a vampire is going to be like, oh, well, I don't have legal representation to be in this house. I guess I'll just piss off in the corner. It is so infuriating.
Have you ever read the original
Yes, I
Dracula?
know you have to get invited in, blah, blah, blah.
But I'm saying this is the way that they did things back in those days. And listen, I can't deny that anything you said was mostly correct. All right? I don't think the guy's movement didn't bother me that much.
It was pretty slow.
He's not nimble. I'll agree. But I'm going to defend Nosferatu the Vampyre Spell Cool Guy style.
Do you want me to turn the sound on?
No. Here's how I'm not going to defend that. And I will defend one thing. They put a turn off the sound button in the game. So
it's shift 1.
Yeah, some of the shortcut keys in this are real bizarre. But anyways, this is a game that you're going to have trouble coming to grips with because it's a game of its era. It's a game of its era when you're a young whippersnapper in the streets of Sussex, and you're picking this up at the local pharmacy for £2.99.
Oh, there's no way this was a budget title.
I've actually got the what it cost here if you'd be interested.
But
when you pick this thing up for £2.99, you take it back to the house. You want to get some time in. You want £9.95. Okay,
keep defending it. Come on,
I'll admit,
big boy.
That does make it a little more difficult to defend. So let's say you're a very rich kid in the streets of North London. You're at the local big department store, and your servant goes in and pays £9.95, and you take this back to your mansion. You play it, okay? If you're into a game, or you get to look, we see a lot of these games in the stage where there's a nice symmetric view. You look around. You try to find stuff, and then you try to complete puzzles or whatnot. It was an advance from it was like the text game video in video form.
Right.
They moved it up. They made it 3D. And I think there's something here. This isn't the worst one of these I've played. I think it plays, I got around the maze okay. But I mean, the bad guys in it are horrible, but that's part of the puzzle. At least for the first level, that's part of the puzzle. Is to, make sure you keep yourself topped off, hun, to get back and forth through the castle, all right? I like the idea as a young fellow of exploring Dracula's castle. Pretty cool. Everybody likes Dracula. Castle spooky. That's pretty cool. The castle's, it's pretty creepy looking, sorta, I like that. If you actually get to the part where you see Nosferatu, he looks sort of like, He looks like if Yoda was like 2 foot taller and was like one of those guys that threw up in his raincoat and he was naked, like a Flash. That's what he looks like. But still, it's sort of scary. And I will say, this game would be rewarding to finish, but if you've seen the ending of this, it's the least rewarding finish I've ever seen. You don't even get to the point where he comes in the room. It just ends. You get
blanks.
It's like 7,000 points to you, jerk. I mean, so you sort of feel like an idiot. I assume they didn't think anybody get that far. Am I defending the game yet? I'm not sure. I think I did.
If you buy a game based on an IP, be it Dracula, be it Mike Tyson, be it anything,
yeah,
right? In the first, and I'm not talking about splash screen.
Yeah.
I'm talking in the first 2 minutes, if the main character doesn't do something, that's a crime.
Yeah.
Because there are going to be hundreds of people who bought this game and never once saw the title character.
Here's something funny about this game. Looking at as you were speaking, I was reading the back cover of the thing, and this line gets me. It says, based on the haunting horror movie from 20th Century Fox, the sophisticated arcade adventure restores the terrifying legend to life. I saw this reference in a lot of magazines. I read some of the magazine reviews, and they refer to this as an arcade adventure. What arcade are they playing in?
Yeah.
Because no arcade adventures are quick with high-paced, exciting gameplay. That is not this. If you buy this thinking you're getting arcade action, you're being deceived.
Yeah.
You know, so that's one. I mean, whether you like the game or not, it is not arcade action. No. Not even close. So, what are you saying? You didn't like this one, the Brent?
Did we get any reviews for this?
Well, let's talk about the actual reviews. Because, believe it or not, this reviewed back in the day, and it got looked over by a lot of magazines of the time. So, Sinclair, let's just start with the bottom. ASM gave this a 53. Not so good. Computer Gamer, 60. Tilt, 65. But the rest of these are sparkling reviews. Your Sinclair gave this a 90. Crash gave it a 91. And Sinclair User, bang, 100%. They gave this 100%. This was a Your Sinclair mega game in Your Sinclair issue 13. And this was a Crash Smash episode in issue 36. So the two big-time players gave this the big high sign.
And you know what we say whenever that happens? I guess the check cleared.
Oh, that's what you say, not me. I think it's all in the up and up.
Yeah.
I did get one solitary review from the stalwart of the show, Jocko. He starts the review by saying, Nosferatu. This is one of the very first games I got with my 128K Specky for Christmas, circa 1986. I still have fond memories of this one. I didn't get very far back then, stunning, but being a lover of isometric games, I'm a sucker for punishment. This one got me loaded up a lot. Coming back to it now, I can see that Nosferatu hasn't aged too well. That's too bad. From a gameplay standpoint, although graphically it's pretty nice, if a little samey and sparse in some places, I would agree.
Yeah.
The music is awful on the Specky and will drive you bats.
That's not a good enough description of the music.
So turn it off for a better experience. I see what he did there with the bats. Map navigation can be irritating due to screen boundaries. It's funny, like you said, even with the map, I had no idea what was going on. So it's easy to accidentally change scenes and have to backtrack. And then when there are respawning bats, this one can be a pain in the neck. Good one. And while changing the color of scenery is a nice touch, it also added to my navigational woes. I agree with that. By the way, this does share that in common with the Castlevania games. You're going to be going back and forth over the same territory hundreds of times.
Yeah.
Gameplay is a little dull. Lots of walking around, not much happening, and your game time can boil down to luck and deeds placement. My only real problem is the single action button, which didn't work well in fights as I kept dropping items.
Yeah.
No kidding. If you want to play this, the Amstrad version is your best shot, and it had good music and is graphically a little nicer than the C64 and Spectrum versions. I heard the C64 version, by the way, was pretty much an exact port of the Spectrum, including everything.
No.
That happened a lot. Not as good as I remember, but it's got it where it counts. A lot of puns in there. 6.5 out of 10, the Brent. So I think, believe it or not, I think he sort of put it over in the end.
Well, yeah,
somehow.
it's Jocko.
Yeah, that's true. He will. Remind me to bury him later. So yes, I don't know. If you want to get this on eBay, yeah, I mean somebody might. I did look it up, and believe it or not, I didn't see any of these actively selling, but one, which was surprising, and not really any that had sold recently. But the one that I did see, if you got money burn a hole in your pocket, you could pay this gentleman. Let me see here where I put it. You can pay this guy $47. The best offer. But these should probably go for a lot cheaper than that. So
this is one of those games where if you, well, this released like a bajillion times. This has about 7 different cover arts released in different eras. So
yeah, I saw at least 2.
Insanity.
So that was that's that. I'm sorry to say, the sun has come out on Nosferatu. Now, I will say, please don't let this dull your enthusiasm for vampires or the movie Nosferatu, particularly the original Max Schreck version, which is haunting and frightening and moves at a quicker pace.
I don't know. This game was pretty haunting and frightening.
It was. Now, let's talk about what the committee has picked up for us next time around. The Clive's Club, they put their heads together and picked us an arcade port, your favorites. I'm looking over what they had to choose from here. Weren't you a big fan of the Shaolin's Road game? Well, they didn't pick that, sorry. But I hope you like Green Beret.
Oh, yeah, I did.
Green Beret will be the next time out on Our Sinclair. Should be a lot of fun. Thank you, Clive's Club, for taking care of us. And we want to thank, of course, all of our Clive's Club members, all of our Patreons, all of our subscribers. We don't thank you people enough. By God, in the last half of this year, I'm going to make it my job to give you props, thumbs up, and much kudos and love. Now, let's talk about the remainder of the year, Brent. As we record this, we are less than a week away from Boat Fest 2025. And right here in scenic Kirk, West Virginia, we will have, including the fellow that just sent in a review, Bajako, we will have all of our buddies descending here at Hurricane for Boat Fest, which is the 11th through 13th this weekend. And, of course, there are tickets still available if you're in the area, you feel like coming down. We'd love to have you. It should be a lot of fun. The Clive's Club main man, Mitzi Allen, is also going to be here. So we've got a couple people from the Clive's Club, big players, are going to be in town. We are going to release our second half of the year schedule after Boat Fest. We'll probably have it ready before we do a next show.
Yeah.
The next show we're going to do...
it's an ARG special.
Yeah, we're going to do our ARG Presents show live at Boat Fest, which will be Saturday the 12th of July, 10 a.m. if you want to tune in live.
10 a.m. EST.
Yeah, and then the week after that, I believe we hit the Atari ST show that week. We're going to announce our new schedule for the end of the year, and I think some exciting and interesting changes are afoot on a few items. So I think if you tune into that one, you might be interested. It should be a lot of fun, but that will be in 2 weeks. So please, we'd love for you to join us at Boat Fest. But if you can't be there, we'll be streaming Boat Fest for most of the weekend. So any place you catch our streams on YouTube or Twitch, tune in. We're doing the 10th anniversary of Amigos on Friday the 11th. That'll be a lot of fun at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we'll also have a live Sprite Castle that will be happening on Saturday the 12th. And, of course, we're always, as usual, we're going to show the auction that Brent runs on Saturday as well, which I think is going to take place around 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll have a full schedule up in the next day or two, so keep an eye out for that. Anything you want to add to this? Brent, are you excited for Boat Fest this year?
Nope.
You are.
No,
you are excited for Boat Fest.
You asked if I had anything left to add.
No, are you excited for Boat Fest?
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Are you excited to run the auction this year?
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Very good. Okay, now do you have anything left to add?
Nope.
He's a slave to his gimmick, everybody. We'll see you next week for Boat Fest. Thanks for joining us. Happy 4th of July, 5th of July, 6th of July. And remember, get your Nosferatu on every summer. Bam.
Get bit.